This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
The biggest icon in podcasting.
Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of the DocNJock Wrestling Podcast. This is episode 195. This is going to be a spectacular show. We've got so much to cover. This is off the heels of a fantastic pay-per-view. And I'm going to be honest with you guys. We basically scrapped our entire show. We had a show laid out. It was going to be great. We said, screw that. Let's talk about all the news AEW is making. Of course, we're going to give you a news and notes segment. We got to talk about what's going on with Triple H, what's going on with his heart procedure. What did WWE want Adam Cole to do with Keith Lee? Yeah, we're going to talk about that a little bit. Kevin Owens possibly being done with WWE. We've got all the insights on that. Plus, you got a WWE legend calling out WWE. So, of course, we're going to discuss that. But we are going to jump right into this show. And to me, it feels like it is a new day for the wrestling world. And I say new day, and I don't mean it's a new day, and we've got Xavier Woods playing a trumpet. No. I feel like it is a new day for the wrestling world, especially after the pay-per-view that we're coming off of with AEW, and they're all out. Doing this with me, as always, he's the one, he's the only, he is the Cinnamon Toast Crunch in my cereal bowl. He is the Doc, John Macaroon. This is the guy who showed up at my girlfriend's house to watch All Out on a projection screen and brought a 20-pack of Coors Light, brought a fifth of whiskey, brought a bunch of White Claws, brought a freaking cheesecake. And I told him, I said, you don't have to bring anything. Yet this guy decided to show up with essentially a liquor store and a bakery. My man, what is going on?
My man, look. For my podcast partner, I'm not making you my manager. I'm making you my equal partner. And so that's why whenever you extend an invite, I have to show out, baby. And for the event that we got to watch, it was a beautiful night, beautiful weather, beautiful company. My God, I'm going to start calling you Chef Bobby Flay, Adam Strozinski. It was an amazing meal. The garlic toast was amazing. The chicken, I had like 5 skewers. I ate, I stuffed, I drank, and then the pay-per-view literally could have been in the background because we were laughing, having a good time. And my God, All Out delivered. And you're absolutely right, because the momentum that they carried into Dynamite was awesome. I thought Dynamite was one of their better shows that they had ever. It flowed so well, and it was such a good show that I was just like, yes, AEW is it. It's now AEW 1A, 1B. WWE has gone, and now for me, third, because of the sheer fact that AEW put on a show that people wanted, and they surprised you, even though most people kind of had an idea of what was going to happen. The way in which it turned out was awesome because we got to see what we wanted to see from the pay-per-view. Surprises galore, matches that told stories, and obviously the return of CM Punk. My God, it was a 5-star night, 5-star guest, 5-star crew. It was an amazing day. One I'll never forget. A late fall day in September. It was awesome. All Out is the way to go. They put themselves on the map, baby. AEW has arrived.
Now, I'm not sure where you stand on all this, but for me, thinking back, this is arguably my number one pay-per-view I've ever watched. I thought this was absolutely fantastic, and I've got a couple pay-per-views that are up there. There's, I think it was the 1992 SummerSlam, and that one's special to me just because that was the first one I actually remember. The match I remember most was the Rockers had a match, and I also remember Axe and Smash had a match. But that pay-per-view was special to me because, like I said, it was one of the first ones I can remember. I remember the 1997 Starrcade with Sting. I remember a couple of different Royal Rumble matches. I remember, I don't know, I remember Bash at the Beach when the NWO showed up. This show surpassed all of them, and it's for reasons like you said. We basically called all the spots. We called who was coming out. We called when they were going to show up. But the way that they delivered it to you, and this is something we talk about a lot, you can do what we expect you're going to do, and that's okay. You can take the obvious route, and that is fine. But it's how you present it to us and how you give it to us that makes it special, that makes it better, that makes it stand out. And the way that AEW was able to lay out this show, because this show at no point did it have a letdown. At no point did it have a moment where you're like, I got my pee break. Let me go take my pee break. This show had none of it. And I think a perfect way to highlight this and how they did it was you have the CM Punk match, and we were looking at each other like, is this isn't the main event. There's like, what else we got? Like, oh yeah, we got Kenny Omega, we got Christian still. But what they ended up doing was they put a match in between that. You had the Paul White match in between the CM Punk match, which got the crowd super hyped, super high. Obviously in Chicago, that's Punk's hometown. You then, instead of just having it kind of like peter off, you have the Paul White match, and it just kind of sets the stage for what is coming later on in the show. The way the show was put together was absolutely exceptional. It kicks off with the Best Friends and Jurassic Express defeating the Hardy Family Office via submission. This was a really good match. Kenny messaging in the group message, hey, they really need to pull the trigger on Jungle Boy pretty damn quick. Luchasaurus looked great. This was a really awesome match. This leads right into the match that I told you I was probably most interested in, that I had no interest in it 2 weeks earlier. And that was Miro taking on Eddie Kingston. And look, I'm not sure how you felt about this match, but I thought this match told a hell of a story. All right. Eddie Kingston being the underdog here to the Redeemer Miro. Miro ends up winning the match, but what you have here is you have Eddie Kingston getting near falls and legitimately taking Miro out with DDTs. That seems to be the weakness that Eddie Kingston has highlighted, that is Miro's basically his Achilles heel. Different headshots basically puts Miro down. Eddie Kingston gets him down on the mat, and it's essentially a 5 count, but the referee's not able to make the count. In the end, Miro ends up low-blowing Eddie Kingston and gets the pinfall. I thought this was a spectacular match. I thought this delivered, and I thought for a curtain jerk, for a way to open up a show, I thought this was spectacular. What did you think?
Absolutely. I loved it. I thought when I was sitting watching it for a second, I said, wow, this is kind of how you elevate talent. Even though, Eddie Kingston is a guy that could use a new wardrobe, and we highlighted again on a big pay-per-view, but by him being in the ring with Miro, you legitimize Eddie Kingston, and that's what you're supposed to do in a company. Even though he loses, the match was fine, told a good story. That's what you want to see. You want to see good quality matchups that are intriguing, and it paid off. I thought the match was funny, and obviously the shirt that he wears is hilarious, and you got an opportunity now to have a slogan that Eddie Kingston can make some money on, and it's fun. It's intriguing. It's exciting, and I just thought that, wow, Eddie Kingston and Miro was just a fun match, and definitely had its aggressiveness. I would have liked to have seen Lana for a second, but hey, what we were all saying is, damn, Miro looks ripped. He's taken the advantage of the opportunity he's been given to AEW, and I think that he's going to take full advantage of it. And he's obviously been the beneficiary of some attention, and him going over was the right call.
Yeah, I think so too. I think also it allows you to do a little bit more with Eddie Kingston and Miro in this storyline if you really want to. Eddie Kingston didn't just lose. There was a cheap shot that forced the loss. So it allows Eddie Kingston to get a nice little rub off Miro, and what you can do is you can spin this, if you really wanted to, into a longer storyline. Now, Dr. Britt Baker ends up defeating Chris Statlander via submission to retain her title. I thought this was another good match. Look, Britt Baker as a champion, I think is awesome. I think she's interesting. Obviously, she was supposed to be a heel, but she is so over with the crowd. It is absolutely ridiculous. We were watching this match unfold, and we've got our ladies there in tow, and they're watching the match as well. And my girlfriend's like, I really like Britt Baker. She's like, I want her to win. I know she's the bad guy, but I want her to win. And I think that's telling. When you can take a wrestler and they're the heel, but you want the heel to win, they're doing everything right. she's absolutely spectacular at what she's doing right now. At no point do I see the belt coming off her, at least not for a little bit. I think she's doing a great job as the women's champ.
And real quickly for Statlander, she looks the part. She belongs.
Yeah, she does.
She looks the part, and if the title were to ever fall into her lap, if she ever earned it, I think she'd do a good job as well. So the women's picture right now is shaping up at the top end with the top 3 to 5 ladies, I think, doing their thing. And I think there's an opportunity now to start to grow the women's division. And the future's bright for what's going on with AEW, especially the women.
Now, I think this was the match of the night. We got a ton. We absolutely had a ton. So far we've had a great build to this match. This was a steel cage match between the Lucha Brothers and the Young Bucks. I don't know any other way to highlight how spectacular this match was than to give it match of the night.
Yes,
I mean, we were watching this match unfold, and we were looking at each other, and we're like, oh my God, that's an amazing spot. Oh my God, I can't believe they just did that. Oh my God, that is great. When the match was over, we were in disbelief, and we said to each other, this was spectacular. This was amazing. The Lucha Brothers and the Young Bucks, one, they have fantastic chemistry, so it should come as no shock that they're going to give you their all, and it's going to be a really good match. But what you had with the Young Bucks trying to rip the mask off of Rey Fenix, and what you had with Penta basically getting a thumbtack shoe to the head, and there's blood, and you've got this steel cage, and you've got super kicks galore, and these guys just work so well off of each other and tell such a fantastic story. To then have the Lucha Brothers defeat the Young Bucks, and to see the raw emotion of Penta, blood and all, but crying through his mask, I thought was great. I thought it was a great shot. I loved this match.
Yeah, it was an amazing match, and one in which prior to, you're like, oh boy, this has a strong candidate to be match of the night, but many people also say match of the year because of the fact that it was just so emotion filled. Now for me, the only point in my notes I said was, did it really need the thumbtack on the shoes? You could argue that it's a little bit excessive on that front, but I liked it. I thought it was woven in right. It wasn't overdone. And obviously this match was going to take a violent turn. These are two tag teams that definitely have familiarity with one another, and that's what makes for a great match, especially in a cage. Oh my God. And to have the Lucha Brothers win it, they deserved it. And I think that, again, what did we say when AEW kicked off? Oh, the Lucha Brothers, they look like a team that can actually do it, but it was a slow build and they had their opportunity. And that's what happens when you have titles that don't change hands every 2 weeks. The Young Bucks carrying it for a little bit of time made it special when the Lucha Brothers took it, and the emotion reflected it, and it was an amazing match. It was awesome to see, a high spot from the cage. It was an awesome match, 5-star match of the night. It was awesome. Yeah, definitely one to see. Rewatch it. Watch it again, because the second time you watch a match, you might catch some things that you missed earlier on, but oh my God, it will deliver. Great tag team match, man. Amazing.
Yeah, it was absolutely spectacular. Next, we ended up getting our women's casino battle royale. 21 women take to the ring and basically duke it out with each other. The surprise contestant, which wasn't a surprise, was Ruby Soho, formerly Ruby Riott. In the end, this is what I think was awesome, right? This is how you know you've got two guys who are super in tune as to what the hell is going on in the wrestling world. The final two combatants in this match, out of 21 people, all right, it is Thunder Rosa, who you picked to win the match. It's Ruby Soho, who I picked to win the match. And these two get it on. And look, I thought they had a spectacular culmination to what was a really good battle royal. Sometimes battle royals don't live up. They don't deliver. You sometimes get some really sloppy wrestling in there. I thought this one served its purpose. I thought this one helped highlight all of the women. And I think in the end, you got to highlight your brand new woman to basically take the, I don't know if you want to say take the spotlight, but your newest commodity in the women's division by bringing in Ruby Soho, who ends up defeating Thunder Rosa. What did you think of the Casino Battle Royal?
Absolutely. I thought it was very important that the women set the stage because obviously the men were going to be featured, and there's been a little bit of an undertone of like, oh, what's going on with the AEW women? They're not, the matches are not living up to the hype. So this was great to see Ruby Soho debut to a nice pop Her outfit was amazing, and obviously she has the it factor where you want to see her. I just had a problem creatively with the decision to give her the win. And the reason why I thought Thunder Rosa had a legitimate chance was she's been the person that's been doing the work. She's been somebody that's unique. And I think, here's the thing, and you have to be careful if you're AEW because you know you're bringing in a lot of former talent from your rival. And not all of them can come in and shine.
Put a pin in that because I want to get into that a little bit later on after we get through the review. Put a pin in that because that right there, I think there's a lot to unpack there.
Yeah, and more are coming. But I thought that, you know what, you had an opportunity. Ruby Soho doesn't need to come in right away and be the number one contender. I thought that the nod should have gone to Thunder Rosa, and then you could actually have the feud right then and there. You could have Thunder Rosa and Ruby Soho go after it. And I thought that might have been the play there to make. But, I mean, it's a minor creative complaint. It's not a big deal. But I thought that you give the nod to the standing AEW worker at the time. But they didn't. Ruby Soho did a great job, and it was a fun match. I enjoyed it.
All right, so now we have the Chris Jericho MJF match. Remember, if Chris Jericho loses this match, he will be forced to retire, which is why none of us believed Chris Jericho was going to ever lose this match. And I think, I'll be honest with you, I think that took some away from this match. You know, I thought it was a good match. I thought it told a decent story. But when you put stipulations on a match like this, it really brings down, I don't want to say the interest, but the severity of what's at stake. Because Jericho's not going anywhere.
Right.
So, again, it was a good match. I think once you added that stipulation, it really took some away. Now, after that, we had CM Punk, and you can kind of start to see the build here, right? So you got Ruby Soho, which was a big pop. You got Chris Jericho, MJF. They feigned MJF winning that match, only for him to lose later on. Now you get to CM Punk, you get to Darby Allin. CM Punk ends up defeating Darby Allin. I don't think that was a shock to anybody. What I think you got here, though, was a pretty decent story. Throughout the match, looked like CM Punk was trying to work off some of the ring rust, not executing all of his moves correctly. He hit a go to sleep, which ended up sending Darby Allin outside of the ring. So he just kind of trying to work through and work off basically 7 years of not wrestling. When in actuality, the guy looked spectacular. He looked fantastic. Darby Allin, I think it's a good rub. I thought this was a good match. I don't think there was anything that was way too crazy here. To me, this felt like it was a CM Punk match. It didn't necessarily feel like it was a Darby Allin match.
Yeah, and I think it was good, too, to start slow. A little bit of headlocks, let the crowd get into it. The crowd was hot, and CM Punk knew what was going on. He was in Chicago, so he didn't have to go in and do spot. It was, no, let's get into the match. Let's take our time. And, I think people said, well, it's a little bit slow to start, but I think what happened is CM Punk is getting his bearings, obviously for the first time. You don't want to blow up. You don't want to go in there and start doing, moves into the ropes right away. So he paused and let the match tell itself. And actually, my note says here, it was a wrestling match. It was like a classic, like, hey, this is a match we've seen many times, but it had the guy that we wanted to see. So to have an entrance, it's just CM Punk. He's over. And that's just a guy that he's made. He's a made man. Dude could go in there and do like drop toe holds. He could lay down. He could do whatever the hell he wants because it's CM Punk. We just want to see him. He's in the rarefied air now of Hulk Hogan, Ultimate Warrior, CM Punk. It's just great. Every time you see him, you relish it because you're like, holy shit, this is the guy we've been missing for 7 years. He's in the ring doing shit. Who the hell cares what it looks like? Who the hell cares about anything? It's CM Punk, and let him do his thing. And to see the victory was cool, and to see what he can still bring. If that's step one, that's a good first step. He still got it.
Yeah, like you said, it was a wrestling match, and it told a story. And sometimes, like you said, you get matches where it's spot, and when you're done, you're kind of like, well, what was that all about? This told a complete story. I thought this was done well. I thought it was good. I think it was a great way to reintroduce CM Punk back into the wrestling world. Now, that match then leads to the Paul White match, where he ended up taking on
QT Marshall.
Yes, where he ends up taking on QT Marshall. This match was kind of a blow off, right?
Yeah,
like this was quick. It was roughly 5 minutes. It allowed the crowd to get hot, and then it kind of brought the crowd back down. So then Kenny Omega and Christian Cage can come out and get everybody back up. And that's what I'm talking about. When you put a show together, you don't have a piss break match. You don't necessarily have this lag. It was a 5-minute match, and yeah, it brought the crowd back down to a reasonable level so you could have your main event with your champion. But it helped basically reestablish the set point. So crowd is extremely hot, like going bonkers. On a scale of 1 to 10, they're at a 12. All right, this match comes on, basically brings it down to a 7. So now you've got Kenny Omega and Christian coming out, and the crowd is primed. You're at a 7 already. To get it back up to a 10, it's not going to take a whole bunch. So I thought it was laid out perfectly the way that they did it. I thought it was great. You then get Kenny Omega.
Yeah.
You then get Kenny Omega and you get Christian. Kenny Omega ends up retaining. And I thought it was a great match. I thought this was a really good match. I thought your wife's interpretation of Kenny Omega was funny. Didn't she say that he was a little bit overrated?
She said he's overrated. That was crazy. She's like, oh, I don't know why he's so special. I'm like, okay, it's Kenny Omega. But I think what everyone kind of notices too is the complete package. He's not the smoothest talker. Like, you look at Kenny Omega, do you really want Omega cutting promos? Not really. It's like he ended up talking weird because he was blown up, and it's funny because I don't think she's into the whole like enhanced version of yourself. Like, Kenny Omega is not that guy. He's not the sunglasses wearing, pimped out, I'm the 5-star guy. That's not him. That's not an enhanced version of him. That's kind of an act, and it's not being portrayed well. But he's a damn good wrestler, so it's fine. He's ranked number 1. Right. Like, I want to see him more like the guy that was when AEW first started, the New Japan guy, the one that was fighting Chris Jericho. Just
I agree with you 100%. I agree with you 100%. If I could get Kenny Omega, Okada, if I could get Kenny Omega back, I would absolutely love it.
Yes, this version's great. This version's great, but this version comes across like this is a wrestling Miz character that comes across, and it's okay. But yeah, for the casual fan like my wife, she's not going to see that. But like I said, he's not the best on the promo and things like that. But my God, when the lights went out, it was great because we were all like, oh, great. Bryan Danielson's coming out. And then they debuted Adam Cole, which was a surprise. And I let out an audible, oh, because it was cool. And to see it done that way was awesome. And then you get the epic swerve with him super kicking Jungle Boy. And the Elite is back together. Was that the right move?
I think so. Like, look. This is what we were talking about when this happened. Adam Cole, like ROH Adam Cole, New Japan Adam Cole, was so freaking interesting. He was great. He was absolutely great. He goes to NXT and he gets totally watered down. And it's not the same. It is nowhere close to being the same. I think you bring him in, you put him with the Elite, and you basically get the boys back together. And you let Adam Cole be Adam Cole. This was such an exciting moment. Not so much the swerve and kicking Jungle Boy. That was great. But it being Adam Cole, because we had talked about where's he going to go? Will he debut? And I don't think we necessarily expected. Like, this was the one thing that we did not necessarily expect. You had Britt Baker kind of tease it a little bit, but this was not what we necessarily expected. Mind you, when I tell you, check out CM Punk's shoes, he did have AC written on his shoes, I think it was about 2 weeks ago. So there was some foretelling as to what was going on there. But I thought it was awesome. I jumped up, I screamed. I had my dog in my lap, and my dog was excited because I refer to her as Bebe, and that's because of Adam Cole. So she was excited to see her namesake. So that was pretty great. Now, all that led to the American Dragon, Bryan Danielson showing up. And I thought that was awesome. That was spectacular. So you had, this is how this pay-per-view ends, right? You had high spot with Ruby Soho. You then have a really good match with Chris Jericho and MJF. To then get the crowd going absolutely batshit crazy for CM Punk. To then get your reset with the QT Marshall and the Paul White match, to then get the crowd going bonkers again with Kenny Omega retaining his belt over Christian Cage, to then have Adam Cole come out. So now the crowd is already on a 14. You bring out Bryan Danielson. You just hit that 3 times multiplier. Like, the crowd is going absolutely bananas. This was awesome. This sets up a really interesting storyline. And I find it weird, because this is kind of where I want to now transition into that conversation about AEW, not necessarily forgetting about their own homegrown talent, and don't become WCW of, what was it, the late 90s. This is where it gets a little bit weird, because you remember the one thing that made AEW interesting is they said that it's going to treat it more like a sport. There's going to be rankings, and they still talk about their rankings. When guys come out, they'll tell you if they're ranked number 1, number 2. They'll tell you their records. They keep track of their records, which is interesting. AEW doesn't do 50-50 booking like WWE does. There's actual wins and losses that are tracked. For Bryan Danielson to come in, be the newest guy off the street, and instantly challenge Kenny Omega, I think it's interesting, but what you've done is you've now kind of thrown out a lot of the things that makes your brand special. And I think if you're AEW, you have to do a better job of not necessarily getting caught up in maybe your own headlines, not getting caught up in some of the big names, not getting caught up in doing things that the fans want to see. At certain points, you have to stick to what makes you special and what makes you great. And I think the one thing that makes AEW great and makes AEW interesting, a little bit more interesting than WWE, is you don't get that 50-50 booking. You can't just be a new guy off the street and instantly get thrust into a main event picture with the AEW champion. And like you said, you've introduced Ruby Soho, and you kind of cut the legs out from underneath Thunder Rosa, you know? So well, I think it's a thin line that you got to walk here.
Yes, but this is totally different. This is arguably one of the 2 best wrestlers in the entire world. You don't have to sell a crowd on Daniel Bryan. They know his shit. They know what he's about. First and foremost, credit to whoever's producing the music for AEW. Yeah. Adam Cole's entrance was legit, probably a little bit better, maybe 5% than his old music. And 100%, once the music hit for Bryan Danielson, the beat afterwards is engaging, and it catches you. It's a great beat, and it's one in which you want to hear it. So kudos to the producers, because the themes are great. Now with Bryan Danielson, arguably this is the best dude, and now you see his character. He wants to be a little bit more rugged. He wants to be more of, I'm a fighter. I'm not just some. I think he's now trying to remove the entertainment part of the persona that he had. Hey, did you see how ferocious those kicks were? Yeah. He came in right away and was handling business and was a little bit more aggressive, and that carried into AEW Dynamite. But no. You can't say that Bryan Danielson's going to not earn a spot with Kenny Omega. That's the dream match. That's what all marks want to see. That's what we all want to pay for. And it'll produce potentially a 5-star matchup, which we all know is going to be great. But you don't have to have Bryan win the match. I think if you want to have Kenny Omega cheat, the Elite come out, I think you could even elevate it back to where Adam Cole gets involved, and you could spin off with Bryan getting pissed at his missed opportunity. You don't have to give the belt right away to the WWE guy, but if he gets it, there's no one that should complain, because Bryan Danielson is a made guy. This guy can show up and headline any pay-per-view that you want. That's the reason why he's there, and he wants to be a professional wrestler. Let's see what it's about. It's all exciting, baby, so I can't wait to see whatever they do. I think is going to be okay on that side of things.
We'll get to the picks, and we'll get to the points here in a moment. I do want to continue this conversation, though, about AEW and kind of what does this pay-per-view mean, not just for AEW, but big picture.
I noticed
Go ahead.
I want to say this. I think my first thought to that question is they took another step up, meaning they had the first couple of years to get their brand noticed by the casuals. Now they have an opportunity to have more of an audience jump up by getting known guys. And so I think that it's an amazing, amazing step that they took to get a couple guys that were made to kind of come in and say, this is where we want to be.
I think it's a little bit more than that. I think what they've done with this pay-per-view is I think they put the world on notice.
Ooh.
They basically said, hey, if you want to be a wrestler, you don't want to be a sports entertainer, you want to be a wrestler. You want to love what you do and do what you love. This is where you do it at. I mean, you look at Daniel Bryan Danielson, whatever you want to call him, okay? If you look at him, this is a guy who went to WWE. He thought he peaked, right? Thought he hit that crescendo, went to WWE. And what he found was he kind of hated it. You know, he ended up getting forced to retire, ends up fighting his way back. And, like, believe me, the only reason he got to wrestle again is because he was threatening lawsuits against WWE because he had a contract with them, and they weren't going to let him out of his contract. So they end up giving in to him working. Ends up working through his contract. Contract expires. And he's like, I want to go and wrestle again. Mind you, he came from ROH. He came from New Japan. He had all these matches. He wanted to go back to being a wrestler and telling stories in the ring. And he went to AEW. And you said it yourself. Those kicks look more ferocious. He looks more real. It's not all smoke and mirrors. It's not sports entertainment. He's going in there to be a wrestler. And I think that's what AEW said with this pay-per-view. You have a guy like Adam Cole. We talked about the watered-down version of Adam Cole in NXT. Adam Cole in ROH and Adam Cole in New Japan was spectacular. You got to see a glimpse of it on AEW's Dynamite this past Wednesday. You're going to get that Adam Cole back. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be great. I think what AEW has said is, we are the wrestling brand. This is what we are. And I think they basically have thrown a haymaker at WWE, and WWE at this point has been knocked to the mat, and they're kind of down for the count right now. I don't know how WWE responds. I don't know how WWE comes back from this, because for me, WWE is so far removed from actually having competition and having good competition where they just can't go buy it all up, because that's what they do. Anytime something gets good, they just go and buy it. Here's a couple $1 million. We have $1 billion contracts. We'll give you a couple mil, and we'll basically absorb your entity. You know, that's what they've done with what is it? Not Omega Wrestling, but a couple of the indie scenes that they've done this with. And it's kind of frustrating if you are a actual wrestling fan. Whereas AEW is like, this is what we got. We're willing to work with anybody. We're here and we're not going anywhere. I think AEW, like you said at the very opening of this show, AEW is number one. AEW is the best wrestling on the planet right now. And if you don't agree, please tweet me at AdamRSTROZ. Tweet the podcast at Detroit Podcast. Let us know. I think AEW is the best wrestling you can get right now. And I don't think AEW is taking any prisoners. Am I out of line here?
No, not at all. Absolutely. It's the place where entertainment's happening. It's the place where a lot of good quality entertainment is taking place. It's must-see, and it's very, very much a show that you want to pay attention to. And like I said, it carried right over into Dynamite, because it was just an absolutely must-see show, and everybody had the buzz around it. And I think they're taking quality opportunities, and because there's still a couple more opportunities that AEW has to give big surprises. So what it is this is the dawn of a new company that is ready to compete with WWE, and it's a nice opportunity to really see what this company can what this company can really do. So I'm impressed, and kudos to Tony Khan, and kudos to what's going on with AEW.
Well, we'll leave this at this. When you have a non-wrestling fan turned into a wrestling fan who watches everything and then gets so turned off by the WWE product but absolutely loves the AEW product and says to you, I really wish we were together more on Wednesdays and on Fridays so we could watch AEW together, because I absolutely hate WWE. That's how you know that a company has made it, and that's how you know a company is doing good things. Those were the words that my girlfriend said to me after this pay-per-view. Mind you, 20 minutes after this pay-per-view, we were all looking at each other like, oh my God, that was a great show. Oh my God, it was a great show. So that tells you what they did with this pay-per-view. It was absolutely fantastic. All Out was great. The fallout from All Out. I ended up picking up 2 points here. I ended up getting Ruby Soho right, so I get the bonus point there. I also made all of the right selections in our picks. Doc, you ended up getting, you got the Ruby Soho one wrong, and you ended up getting the, which other one did you get wrong? You got one other one incorrect, I believe. It was the Hardy family one. It was the Hardy family run. Yep. So, I ended up taking a 2-point lead. I now have a 5-point lead on you, 3.5 to 8.5. So, you got some work to do, buddy. You got some work.
Yeah, it was all in all a good opportunity to see a nice evolution of AEW, because we've been with it through the beginning, and it's a great opportunity to see when a company invests in doing things the right way. I mean, because it reminded us of the WCW WWE Wars, because of all the surprises, the surprise entrances. It was just fun to see, and it was so awesome that we had this opportunity to really, really see the dawning of a company, and they're going to compete. I mean, they got endless money, and like I said, there's a name, and we'll keep teasing it, that potentially could go there and really set things ablaze, because, you know, characters that show up in AEW have the chance to shine. Look at Malachi Black, Miro, Sean Spears. Adam Cole is going to come in and right away do some things. AEW's on the rise, and there's a buzz, there's a freshness, there's a cool factor. They've made professional wrestling cool. And what it means for AEW is they're on the map, and they're taking the step forward. Let's see now where these angles develop, and I can't wait. I can't wait to see what storylines emerge, and it's going to be great, baby. All right, cuz, hit me with this week's professional wrestling news and notes. What made your list?
So Mick Foley had some really harsh words about WWE. Foley said on Tuesday that WWE may be facing a real issue because it's no longer the place for talent to aspire to. Right. Foley praised All Elite Wrestling, with their promotion having already signed a number of former WWE stars like CM Punk, Adam Cole, Daniel Bryan or Bryan Danielson, Ruby Soho, and Jon Moxley. He continued to say that the problem lays at the feet of the promotion of WWE themselves, as they pull in record profits, so they don't feel a need to change. And that's kind of what we were alluding to. They've got billions of dollars. There's no need for them to feel any heat. They don't even view AEW as a threat, which blows my mind.
And now, just real fast, anybody that watches Karrion Kross has to be embarrassed in saying, I don't want to be that. I can't be that. I don't care who pitched it to him. He took it. I don't want to be that. Let's go to the spot where we can be a little bit more cooler.
Well, speaking about a guy who was pitched something and was like, I don't want to do that.
Oh my God.
Adam Cole, who we just talked about quite a bit, made his debut this past Sunday. Now, Dave Meltzer has confirmed on Wrestling Observer Radio that WWE wanted to turn Adam Cole into a heel manager with Keith Lee. So they wanted to pair Adam Cole and Keith Lee up and then have Keith Lee turn heel. And this was basically going to be the Leo Rush, Bobby Lashley version with Adam Cole as Keith Lee's manager. WWE doesn't even realize what it has in talent. Right. They were going to use Adam Cole as a manager. What?
Wow. Ultimately, when you say that, the words speak for itself. Turning Adam Cole into a manager. That's your creative pitch?
Yeah.
See you later, alligator. Get the fuck out of here with that.
I mean, it's no surprise that this guy found his way to AEW as quickly as he did. Now, somebody else who may be done with WWE very, very soon. Kevin Owens may be out the door at WWE. Now, Owens' contract reportedly expires in January of 2022. So per Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful, We've learned from WWE officials that WWE restructured several contracts ahead of the pandemic. And for whatever reason, Kevin Owens' deal was changed to expire in January of 2022, the report stated. He continued to add on and say, we're not told of any other terms of the deals or anything specifically why it was shortened. He said that they will work to find out if there are other deals that were adjusted as well. So really, really interesting. WWE went in, and one of their top guys, a guy who can play a heel or a face, Kevin Owens can do whatever you want Kevin Owens to do. Puts on spectacular matches. They went in and they purposely shortened his contract. If I'm Kevin Owens, I've got bags packed and I'm going to AEW. Now, Kevin Owens did add a little bit of fuel to the fire here. He ended up sending out a tweet earlier this week, and for his location, he put almost there. The Elite ended up following that up and put for their location there. So you connect the dots.
Oh,
Kevin Owens is almost there.
Now, here's the thing real fast. Here's the thought I had. The thing that made WCW interesting was obviously all the debuts, but the debuts you had was like Lex Luger past his prime, Macho Man past his prime, Hogan, Ric Flair. All these debuts you're getting for AEW are guys that didn't reach their potential in AEW. I mean, you had the angle with Kevin Owens in the Festival of Friendship, and it didn't even get past the second match of WrestleMania. The excitement comes in is that AEW is going to take characters we love and make them better. This is going to be great. There are characters coming besides Kevin Owens that are going to show up and be better. And I think that's what potentially has everyone excited. Bryan Danielson, CM Punk, everybody's going to be better. I don't see worse for anybody yet that's come to AEW. So this is going to be great.
Yeah, it's going to be spectacular. I mean, it's a star-studded roster, and you get to basically do what you want to do. Like, creatively, they don't hold you back. And I think that's the fantastic thing, and I think it's the thing that we love about AEW. Now, speaking of holding back, Triple H may be held back, maybe held out of some action for a little bit. He underwent a bit of a heart procedure last week following what they're deeming a cardiac event. The company announced this on Wednesday. In that announcement, WWE said, Paul Levesque, a.k.a. Triple H, underwent a successful procedure last week at Yale New Haven Hospital following a cardiac event. The episode was caused by a genetic heart issue, and Paul is expected to make a full recovery. No further details were offered on his condition. Looks like Triple H is going to be okay, but really, really interesting that he suffered a bit of what they're deeming a cardiac event.
Yeah, just got to be careful with that too, because of the fact that, obviously this was a bodybuilder. You don't know what's been happening, behind the scenes of things that maybe were done that could affect the heart. But look, bottom line, the man's been stressing for the last 30 years. The wrestling life is not easy. It is along the lines of football, taking bumps, extreme, it's not normal to live your life and then all of a sudden get into a wrestling ring and go full bore for 20 minutes. It's not normal to fly around and have your body do that for 20 years. And then on top of that, you think his lifestyle with stress is conducive to proper stress management? I mean, oh my God, your father-in-law is Vince McMahon, who probably is up your ass like every move. Is NXT doing good stuff? I don't see the good shit, Triple H. Paul, where's the good shit? I gotta get in there. He's probably like every week at dinner, he's probably like Sunday dinner, Paul, I'm coming over to take over. And he's like, God damn, I created all these stars. What's wrong with you? And I just hope, in all seriousness, it's a good recovery, because the wrestling world needs Triple H around, and it's a good dude, and hopefully he recovers fully.
Yeah, fingers crossed. That's going to do it for this week's wrestling news and notes. Look, man, I was thoroughly impressed by what AEW did this past weekend, and I look forward to doing more wrestling with you. I look forward to watching more wrestling with you.
Yes.
It was a great weekend. Absolutely fantastic.
Absolutely. It's just unbelievable with the wall breaking down with Jon Moxley and everything going on with him. You have so many intriguing storylines, so many more surprises ahead, and it's just a new, fresh time, and we feel great in regards to moving forward with the DocNJock Wrestling Podcast. So let us know what you think. Hit us up on Twitter at Detroit Podcast. Message Adam at Adam R STROZ. Follow the network. Make sure anywhere you listen to your favorite podcast, you just type in Detroit Sports Podcast, and our daily content will find you. Podcasting time is now over. Closing it up. Look forward to talking to everybody next week. Talk soon, cuz.